Hello, if you're new here, my name is Tuppence. And as you can see, I have a bowl mould in front of me. I've been really inspired by all kinds of different fruits, the colours, the shapes. Last week I used a mushroom mould to create a dish that looked like a kiwi fruit. This week I'm going to carry on that fruit theme and I'm going to make a bowl that looks like a watermelon. This bowl has round sides, so I'm going to colour it with these chrome powders and create the classic red and green watermelon. I've got red, gold and green chrome powders. I'm going to paint those directly onto the mould and then I'll fill this with a resin. I'm going to colour that white. These are really strong chrome powders, so they should show up really nicely. So first I've got to turn the mould inside out so that I can access all the areas I want to paint. There we go. Right, I'm going to start by painting the bottom. And I don't want that chrome powder to fly everywhere. It's really fine. So I'm going to mask it off using some of this cling film, we call it, or food wrap. It sticks really well to the silicone. I'm just going to use this to mask off most of the area so I don't have to do a lot of cleanup. Now if I can bring this all the way down to that edge, that centre section there, that line in the middle, that is the top rim of the bowl. And I kind of want that to be white. So I'm going to try and pull the cling film down until it meets that bottom edge. It's really sticky and it really likes to fold over on top of itself. It's a bit staticky, so it's not the easiest thing to wrangle into shape. I'm trying to stretch it. It's also not very wide and this bowl is quite large. So I'm just going to carry on and stick this to the mould, mask off as much of the top area as I can, just so that I can avoid having to do a lot of cleanup. There we go, that's all done. It did take a little while, and now that I'm looking at it, it does look like a shower cap, so that might work. I'm going to start by using this green chrome powder. It's a colour I absolutely love. And this is going to be the dark green stripes that you get around the edge of the watermelon. So I just want to make random stripes all the way around. It doesn't have to be super neat. They don't have to be completely square. In fact, the more irregular they are, then the better. That's what they're like in nature. I'm using a soft brush to apply this. In fact, this brush comes in the kit when you buy the chrome powders. And I'm loading it up with a decent amount of powder. I want a good strong colour on here, but I'm going to try and get rid of any of the loose bits of powder, otherwise that's just going to float around in the resin when I pour that in. So I'm going to make sure that I rub that in, and the more powder I have on the brush, the more chance there is of loose bits sticking to the bits of the mould that I don't want to have any powder on it. Right, so I'm going to carry on going round. I'm not being careful about spacing. And as I say, I'm not worried about the shape of the stripes. Just want to make sure I go all the way around, which I've done. And as you can see, I've got some loose bits of powder in the spaces in between. So I'm just going to take a baby wipe and remove those pieces. Not neatening up the stripes or anything, just getting rid of those random bits of powder. This is just a normal baby wipe. It's 99% water. And I'm being really careful not to rub too hard on my mould because I don't want to scratch it. So once I've removed any of the pieces that I don't want, and a lot of these are actually on the inside of the mould, but once I've removed the pieces that I don't want, I'm going to need to leave this to dry before I start to add my next colour. Right, so I've got a lot here. Let me just take that away as well. And there we go. All right, I've even got some up here, but actually there's no point me doing that because I am going to add some more powder on here, so I'll clean that up afterwards. Now the pack only comes with one green and I'm going to need a slightly paler shade of green. So I'm going to mix my own up by putting some of the green powder in here first and then adding some gold to it. And that way you can get lots of different shades. Even though you get 10 colours in that pack, you can mix them to make your own shades as well. Okay, I think that's enough green. I'm going to add some gold. I need to find a spoon. Let me just grab one from the side. So I want to put quite a lot of gold in compared to the green. I'm going to mix up more than I need. I want to make sure that I have enough to go all the way round with this one mix, otherwise I may not get the same colour twice. So I'm just going to give those two colours a stir around, make sure I get all of that powder mixed together pretty evenly. And don't judge the colour that you get in the pot. When you're mixing the powder, it really does not reflect what colour you actually get on your mould. So it's a little difficult to see what this is going to look like. Well, I've managed to decorate my gloves with a lot of powder. I need to clean that off before I pick up that mould, otherwise I'm just going to transfer that colour onto it. I also need to leave the mould a little bit of time to dry before I add the powder, otherwise it won't stick to the mould properly. So just give me a couple of minutes for everything to dry and I'll be back. Okay, everything's dry. I can add this colour now. And again, I just need to paint that in the spaces. And you can see I've got a really nice light green. That's a lovely colour actually, I really like that. So I'm just going to brush this on and make sure I fill the spaces in between those green stripes. I'm not going to paint over the top of them, but I don't need to worry about going slightly over the edge, because whatever colour goes down onto your mould first is the colour that you're going to see. So I'm just going to take that slightly over the sides and make sure that all of this is filled in. I'm going to use my glove to rub off the excess, and it's just quicker actually to help spread that over. Make sure it's all polished in. Gosh, that is so pretty. These colours are really strong and you don't actually need that much to get full coverage. So I'm going to have more than enough. I'll just store the excess for another time. Okay, that's gone all the way round. It's all been rubbed in. Now it's time to remove this cling film, and it's done the job. It's kept everything nice and clean on the main part of the bowl. Do have loose powder around there. I'm not going to worry about that for a minute because I need to add the red in the middle. That's going to create more mess, so I'll clean it up afterwards. And I should have opened this before I messed around. There we go. At this time I'm using a larger soft makeup brush. And I'm going to try and be as neat as I can and take that right up to the edge. So I'm not putting too much powder on the brush, that way it shouldn't go everywhere. I just want to make sure that I get right along that edge, but not filling in the middle. That's a lot of powder. Okay, I'm going to use a combination of the brush and my glove to spread this out, and I'm going to cover the whole of the inside of the bowl. Just look how gorgeous that colour is. Almost there. I'm really burnishing that colour around, spreading it about. It goes on much quicker if I drop a load of powder on and then spread it out with my glove. Get that all polished in. Beautiful. Right. That looks pretty good. I can't see any gaps or holes. Now comes the tricky part. I need to clean this. I also need to clean my gloves. So I'm going to be using some alcohol and some cotton buds or swabs. So let me just go grab my stuff. I'm going to put the alcohol into a little cup. I'm using 99% isopropanol, and that is going to evaporate pretty quickly. So take my cotton swab and I can dip that in, and then I'm going to use that to take away as much as I can of that powder along that middle section. This is the top rim of the bowl, and I want that to be pretty, as clean as I can get it and white, because that's the colour of the resin that I'm going to be putting in there. This is going to take a couple of minutes, so I'm going to just speed through this, but you can see what I'm doing. I'll be back once I've managed to get it all clean. Okay, you can see that's nice and clean. Now I've got to turn this the right way round, and this is a slightly tricky part. I'm hoping it's not going to scratch any of that colour off. I've still got my gloves on. I can see that I am picking up a little bit of colour on my gloves. Hopefully that is not going to have any effect on the final piece. Okay, we've done it. Hopefully that colour is all still in place, and it looks pretty good from the outside. So now I need to go ahead and mix up my resin. I'm going to be using JDiction's High Gloss. It's their crystal clear epoxy, and I'm not really sure how much I'm going to need for this bowl. I'm going to start by mixing up 8 ounces, and that will give me a guide as to how much more I'm going to need. I know I will definitely need more than that. So let me go ahead and mix up my resin, and then I'll be back. Okay, I've got 8 ounces mixed up. I use my Resiners mixer to do that. And now I need to add my pigment paste. This is Supreme White, and that was from, well, you can get it from Apex Resins. So I'm just going to give that a quick stir in. This is a particularly thick pigment, so I want to make sure that I get that as mixed in as possible. I don't want any raw pigment floating around in there. So I'm using a micro brush stick, nice and thin. I'm just going to keep swirling that around until I get most of that pigment off. I'm not brushing it against the side of the pot. I don't want to put any raw pigment against those edges. Okay, most of that pigment is coming off. You can see that it is mixing in. All right, that will do. I'll get rid of the rest of that. So let me just grab a paper towel. I can clean that off. And then I'm going to use my spatula to make sure that that is all mixed in. And because this was mixed by a machine, you do want to make sure that you scrape the bottom, the sides, and get that mixed in for 30 seconds at least. So my colour is now all mixed through. I've got my bowl on my Resiners G3 mat. I'm not going to actually use the machine to heat it up. I'm just using it to catch all the drips. So now I can start to add this to my mould. I'm going to pour that around the edge. I want that to flow down the sides first. It's a beautiful white. It looks really nice. I'm just doing this slowly, giving it a chance to run down the edges and let the bubbles release. Otherwise I could cause a big bubble to get trapped. Now I don't want to squeeze this too much because I don't want to mix the colours. So I'm just going to gently squeeze the edges. Make sure that that fills the bottom of the rim. I'm kind of more tipping it around than squeezing it. And I've probably gone a little over halfway. I can just about see the level of the resin along the side of that mould. So I reckon I need probably almost as much again. So I'm going to mix up a further 6 ounces and I'll let you know. But I think this is probably going to take about 14 ounces. So I'm going to mix that up and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've mixed up a further 6 ounces and this is about 5 minutes later. Didn't take that long, so now I just need to add that on top. And yeah, that looks like that is enough. So 14 ounces for this. Let me just scrape everything out of this pot. I can see a little bit of mica powder floating on the surface, so there must have been some loose powder in there. I did try and burnish it in as best I can. The risk is that some of that will colour the resin and then it's going to settle. And yeah, I'm not going to have quite as a clean rim as I would like. I don't mind if it floats on the top, but just going to give this a gentle tap. Try and get some of those bubbles that might get trapped underneath that curve out to the top. And now I need to leave this overnight, so I'll see you in the morning. Time for demold. I can see that edge. That is so pretty already. Let me just pull the mould away all the way round just to release some of that suction. I'm kind of getting a sneak peek. I just love the chrome powders. They're so pretty. All right, I'm going to fold that all the way back and just go all the way round. It's quite a firm mould, so it is a bit of a workout on the fingers. Last bit. Right, once I get it there, I can just roll that off. That looks great. Oh, I can see some red. That's peeking through, so that might have touched. Yeah, I think that may have transferred when I tried to turn the mould inside out. That colour inside is gorgeous. Oh, the rim though. Not as clean as I hoped. And yeah, there's definitely some transfer. It's not too bad. It's not as bad as I thought it might be though. But I am a little bit upset about that because I did work hard to try and clean that off, and I have got some transfer. But now I need to make some seeds for the middle. So I'm going to use some vinyl for that. I've cut that out on my Cricut. This is just black smart vinyl. And now I'm just going to stick these in. This is permanent vinyl, so it doesn't need to be covered up. It is perfectly washable afterwards. And I'm only going to wash this with a sort of damp cloth. Because it is resin, I'm not going to use it for any kind of food or anything like that. It's really mostly decorative. So I'm picking these up like stickers and just arranging them around the middle in a ring. Okay, here it is. All the seeds are in place, and I really do think that that makes the look. I've pressed them down really well, and it is permanent vinyl, so they're really secure, and I'm not going to top coat that. I'm just going to leave it as it is. I'm really happy with the way it's turned out. I love that red in the middle. I wouldn't change that. That looks really nice. And I like the outside too. I think the only thing I would do differently is maybe I would have put a little bit of dark blue in with that green, just to get a distinction between the two colours. But otherwise, I think it really does look like a watermelon. Yeah, I'm pretty upset about the top. I did clean that really well. So I think that must have happened when I was actually trying to turn the mould inside out. Not sure what I could have done about that. I suppose I could paint over the top with a little bit of acrylic, white acrylic paint, or maybe just top coat it with some white resin. But for now, I'm just going to leave it as it is. Lesson learnt. The bowl's also not completely round. I did notice that my mould is a little bit warped, but again, this is what it is. It is a watermelon bowl, and I love it. I hope you love it. If you do, please give me a thumbs up, comment, share, subscribe to my channel if you haven't. It's free to you. It will really help me, and you can come back and see what I'm going to make next time. I'm going to leave you with some photos. Until then, thanks for watching. Bye.